Hello, my name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father, prepare to die. Actually, my name is Bruce Stahlman, and my philosophy is we don't get to choose what happens to us, but we do get to choose how we respond. First and always, it's about gratitude. Let me tell you why. My wife Kelly and I were married in 1985. Our oldest son, Jay, was born in 1989, and he was everything we'd hoped for. The twins, Mark and Eric, were born in 1992. As it so happens, they were born at 28 weeks, so very premature. Mark weighed 2 pounds, 15. Mark was in the NICU for 2 months, Eric for 3. Ultimately, they were both diagnosed with cerebral palsy and medical fragility. Both were drip-fed with gastrointestinal tubes because they couldn't consume enough nutrition orally to sustain themselves. Mark was nonverbal and non-mobile, but learned to communicate with a speech computer like Stephen Hawking. Eric was verbal but non-mobile and ultimately was on a trach vent for assisted breathing. Both used power wheelchairs, and we lost track of how many surgeries each boy had, but it was easily 1 per year, and not wimpy stuff like tonsillectomies, but spinal fusions, bone and muscle lengthenings, stomach Nissens, etc. Our house essentially looked like a hospital intensive care unit with medical equipment and alarms, 24/7 nursing care, an in-ceiling lift system to move the kids around when they got too big to manually pick up. I saw a terrific bumper sticker the other day that said, "Experience wildlife, raise twins." They have no idea. It wasn't entirely all trauma and drama, however. We did have fun as well. In fact, we like to say we put the fun in dysfunctional. In 2014, the twins got to throw out a first pitch at the Rockies game. So we got to the stadium and met the staff, and they ushered us onto the field via the groundskeeper's gate in the left field corner. I was driving Eric's power chair, and we went down the left field foul line till we got to home plate. Kel and Mark were following behind us, and when they went past the third base dugout, which was the visiting dugout, one of the bench coaches for the San Francisco Giants waved them over and gave them a couple autographed baseballs, which was a massively classy thing to do. What was decidedly less classy was Eric and I standing at home plate yelling, "Throw them back!" The other thing that they enjoyed doing was playing what's referred to as what's called unified basketball. So the various kids in the special needs program at the local high schools will play one another and get out on the varsity basketball court. They'll toss the basketball, and the kids who are able to can run up and down the court, shoot and make a basket, at which point the scoreboard increments and all the fans clap. They've got a pep band and so forth and so on. So it's a lot of fun. Mark and Eric couldn't do that, so they had the ball. The helper would put the ball on their tray of their wheelchair, and they'd drive to the other end of the court and push the ball into a hoop that one of the helpers was holding, at which point the scoreboard would increment, everybody'd clap, and it was great. After a while, Eric decided that he didn't want to play anymore. He wanted to referee. So we got him a black and white striped referee's shirt, and he had a whistle. So he'd drive around the court and blow fouls on people, which of course necessitated a helpful commentary from the stands. I'd stand up and yell, "Ref, you missed the call. You blew that call. Bad zebra." At which point he would then drive over to the stands, point at me, and throw me out of the game, which he always enjoyed doing. And I had to tell him, "You can't throw me out of the game. I have the car keys." So So, Mark passed in 2014 from essentially a blood clot, an arterial blood clot. He was 21. He passed in a hurry. Eric passed in 2015 of complications arising from sepsis or blood poisoning. He was a little bit more stubborn about the whole thing, but he was 23 at the time. Over 600 people attended each memorial service, which is remarkable for kids who weren't mobile or particularly verbal, but they were consistently awesome self-advocates for the disabilities community and touched many, many other lives. They'll forever be our heroes because, like so many people with developmental disabilities, they were courageous. They weren't defined by their disabilities. They cared about other people and engaged completely. They lived life to the fullest, and they remind us that God doesn't make mistakes. They were perfect just as they were for as long as they were. So you can imagine getting past that with two of your children was neither easy nor fast, but life moves on. Jay and his wife, Sveti, having two grandsons, or our two grandsons, their two sons, certainly helped. The second was born in September of 2018, the significance of which will become apparent momentarily. In late August of 2018, I hadn't been feeling well for a month or so and was having some marginal balance issues. I figured it was a virus or something. This is all pre-COVID. And I really paid it no mind. Kelly contacted a neurologist we knew from work with the twins to get a recommendation for an office visit. He said, don't fool around with an office visit. Go to the ER and get an MRI. So on 28 August, I was getting ready for work, and Kel says, you're going for an MRI. I said, nah, I've got to go to work. She said, you're going for an MRI, deal with it. Whereupon the superhero known as She Who Must Be Obeyed entered the room. So we drove to the Littleton Hospital emergency room in separate vehicles since I'd anticipated going on to work when they found nothing. An hour after the MRI, the attending physician comes in and says, you have a large mass in your head and we're admitting you to the intensive care unit. Naturally, I said, what exactly do you mean by a large mass? And on 31 August, they wheeled me down to surgery, and 6 hours later, I was missing a racquetball-sized cancerous tumor in part of my brain. But I got a groovy scar, and they left most of the personality intact, which some view as a missed opportunity. The diagnosis wasn't pretty. It was a glioblastoma, and I was told statistically I had maybe 15 to 18 months. This kind of cancer is fairly resistant to drugs because of the blood-brain barrier. I've had a number of people tell me it's a rough ticket getting brain cancer after having Mark and Eric, but I say they've got it all wrong. Mark and Eric were a blessing as we met so many great people in the disabilities community through them. And I wouldn't have worked at ARC thrift stores for 15 years absent their arrival. Kelly forcing me to get an MRI was a blessing because I'm probably not here speaking to you without it. As a dude, I was unlikely to volunteer for one of my own accord. I say statistics means something applied to large populations of data, but not necessarily individual data points. I'm reasonably young and otherwise healthy. My oncologist says I'm best in class of his patients in tolerating treatment to date and that he's very happy with my progress. Of course, I explained to him that his happiness is my primary objective. I'm 16 of 17 on clean MRIs since December of 2018. Finished what's called adjuvant chemo in November 2019. I'm back running at the end of 24th of October. I did a 10K run, local in Littleton, 6.2 miles in 12-minute flat average. So I was pretty pleased with that. And I'm 39 months past surgery, so don't bring that week 15 to 18 month stuff in here. And I've got the Optune device. These are electrodes that sit on the scalp that are connected to a device that I carry around in this backpack that set up electrical fields the surgery to get the tumor out was great, but there's always rogue cells floating around, and when they go to divide, the electrical fields disrupt the chromosomal spindles and either degrade or kill the cancer cells. 16 to 17 clean MRIs tells me it seems to be working, so I'm going to keep using it. Had to the electrodes sit on the scalp, so I lost some of the hair when with chemo and radiation after surgery, and we had to take the rest of the hair off to use the device. So I'd gone to the office right before the Optune arrived, and we started using it without any hair. And my teammates at work took my nameplate off the door of my office and put Vin Diesel up, which I thought was a nice touch. Now they just refer to me as Buzz Lightyear with the backpack, so that's all right too. It's interesting. People ask me if I feel anything. When I first got this, I kind of assumed I was going to have, a game of asteroids going on in my head with, the electrodes zapping cancer cells. But I don't feel anything. At night, it just sits on a bedpost. During the day, it sits by my desk when I'm working. Interestingly, the upshot to it, or the unintended consequence, if you will, they know about this, and they don't publicize it because they don't want it used for the wrong reason, but I can read everyone's thoughts. Fortunately, I respect privacy, so it's all good. The good news is that every time I walk into a room with people I know, they tell me how good I look. That never happened before I had cancer. And I'm proud to have lived up to my dad's observation that I do now, in fact, have a hole in my head. The worst part of the whole experience is I have this insatiable urge to sing the Scarecrow song from The Wizard of Oz. Join in, you all know the words. Oh, the thoughts that I'd be thinking, I'd be another Lincoln if I only had a brain. That's a pretty small beer in the grand scheme of things, and as we like to say at church, it's God's work in our hands. So I'm not crawling under my desk in the fetal position to suck my thumb, weeping, woe is me. I'm going to call my own shots and not let a disturbing diagnosis mess up a great opportunity to do something positive for other people. Let me close with a few quotes I've found to be inspirational and comforting. The early 20th century Irish dramatist, critic, and social reformer George Bernard Shaw said, "This is the true joy in life, the being used for a purpose recognized by yourself as a mighty one, the being a force of nature instead of a feverish, selfish little clod of ailments and grievances, complaining that the world will not devote itself to making me happy." I'm of the opinion that my life belongs to the whole community, and as long as I live, it is my privilege to do for it whatever I can. I rejoice in life for its own sake. Life is no brief candle to me. It is a sort of splendid torch which I have got hold of for the moment, and I want to make it burn as brightly as possible before handing it on to future generations. Surgeon Dr. Bernie Siegel in Love, Medicine, and Miracles said, "In a life out of harmony with itself, events seem to conspire to go wrong, but by the same token, they mesh wondrously when you start to live your bliss." Perhaps this is another way of saying you create your own opportunities out of the same raw materials from which other people create their defeats. And the 20th century American philosopher Wayne Dyer said, "When you see change as the only constant there really is, you start to recognize it as an expression of ongoing life that's a welcome clue to your own purpose and meaning." I wish you all the best. I hope you believe me when I say first and always it's about gratitude. And remember, you can't stop the waves, but you can learn to surf. Thank you so very much.